All right, listeners, we're not talking about you. This episode is not about you. It's about somebody else. But I think we can all learn through it. So 4 kinds of church leaders who will not lead in revitalization. So, Dad, we tend to be more positive, but we're going to look at things through kind of a reverse filter here, and hopefully learn some lessons. So revitalization is now kind of front and center, thankfully. Took a few years to get there.
Yes, it is.
I started ministry before revitalization was even the term that was used. So I'm now the old man who can say, I remember when.
I remember. No, I'm not going to start singing.
You know what? I think people who tune in regularly are probably used to your singing at this point.
Everything triggers a song in my head. I wish I could get over it.
There are worse things. There are worse triggers. There are worse triggers in life. So you should be grateful. If things trigger 60 songs in your head, that's better than other voices that may be talking in your head. So,
I guess so. I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, we're going to get into this here in just a moment. Want to thank our sponsor, Tyndale. Hey, they have the New Living Translation large print pew Bible, and I use these. These are what we have.
Yeah, large print, the myth of the large print, right? Uh-huh.
Well,
how about larger print than the others?
Yeah, large print is a bit of a misnomer because it's 10.25, and that 0.25 makes a difference. It's 10.25, so it's not like giant. There is a giant print, by the way, and then there's the Sam Rainer print, which is I need that. I need it even larger. The point that I'm making is these pew Bibles are great. We have a line on them in our budget for the NLT large print pew Bible. This is what we use, and we tell our people take a Bible. If you don't have one, take one. If you know somebody that needs one, take it. And we buy Bibles every year. We are constantly replacing them. This is a great outreach tool. You're probably not thinking of like your pew Bible as an outreach tool, but these are very well done. They're inexpensive. And man, put it in your budget and just use this as an opportunity to tell your guests, oh, you don't have a Bible. Let me give you a Bible. It's just a wonderful way to make people feel welcome and to give people a reason to go talk to their neighbors.
So one of our pastors, in Church Answers, bought 1,000 pew Bibles. Their attendance is about 300, and they bought 1,000. And they put it as a line item into community outreach, and they delivered them to homes.
That's awesome.
Several times of outreach. Obviously, they couldn't keep on replenishing and doing that, but they sent them out. I haven't heard the rest of the story because they were just doing it at the time. One of our platinum guys in Florida. All
right, so church-connect.com. Link in the show notes. That's where you can get these. Church-connect.com. They're the NLT large print pew Bibles. It's what we use. I say this as somebody who bought these things before Tyndale was even a sponsor. So It's very easy for me to promote them. All right, Dad. So there are 4 types of church leaders who are likely to be ineffective or unlikely to be effective. If I have
That's a good way of putting it.
Right. And if you add all these things together, it can be a pretty dangerous mix. You could say this of leadership. You could also say of congregants as well. But let's talk about fearful leaders first, and particularly fearful leaders who avoid risk. So if you are risk averse, I understand. I'm very conservative financially. Like I don't like the swings in the markets, which seem to be happening a lot of late. Mm-hmm. Many people would say buying opportunity, buy low, sell high. And when it's the roller coaster, you have more opportunities to do that. Fair enough. But I am one of these leaders who wants to mitigate risk. Maybe that's a better word than avoiding risk. What does this fearful leader look like when it becomes a problem?
Well, first of all, this fearful leader is not someone necessarily who is always a fearful leader. This fearful leader is not someone who's always trying to mitigate risk. It can be more seasonal than it can be than ongoing. But the issue is, to use Brad Wagner's word, is there a pattern? Is there something in this leader's life that indicates, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid risk. And when you do everything you can to avoid risk, you will never see the opportunity. And so revitalization, just taking a church that needs revitalization, you have to understand that's a risk, because the church that needs revitalization obviously has some trajectory that has to be turned around. And if something has to be turned around, then what is that? Change. So if you're going into a revitalization and you're risk averse, extremely risk averse, here's my advice. Don't do it. Don't go into the revitalization, because there will be some necessary risk taking that takes place. What is the most common one? We've got to stop doing this and then doing this. In other words, change the way you're doing something and do something new. That in of itself is a risk. Now, here's my take on this. The old Thom Rainer. Now, I know I'm old, but the Thom Rainer of the past. The Thom Rainer of the past.
young Thom Rainer.
The young Thom Rainer wrote a book called Eating the Elephant. 1994. I don't remember. Who cares? No, nobody really cares. I know the revised edition is newer than that with Chuck Lawless, but I wrote a book, and it was about avoiding risk in churches. If you want to have long-term tenure, you have to plod. You have to avoid risk. I'm not like that anymore. Churches are dying and declining too quickly. You have to take some measured risk, and it's those leaders who are not taking that measured risk that are not going to see revitalization take place. Revitalization may be cool, but there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that is not so fun in revitalization, and you've got to go down that path.
Indeed. Josh and I, on another Rainer on Leadership episode, this was a couple months back, so you can go look for it, did an episode on when you go to a dead church on purpose. Like, there is a huge risk involved with that. And there are people that are called to do that. There are people that are called to, that was me. Although I was too young and dumb to know even that there was a risk. I was a bivocational pastor driving 2 hours one way to go to a church that hadn't had services in 2 years with 6 people. And 6 or 7. I can remember the number.
Mine was 7. I think yours was 6.
6. Okay. Yeah.
You got a 6-0 vote and I got a 6-1 vote.
There you go. Yeah. Our stories blend together so much at this point that I forget which ones are yours and which ones are mine.
Yours is Herbie. Mine's Merle.
That I do know. I'll never forget Herbie, the one deacon. And it ended up being awesome. It ended up being great, but it was what was the risk? Well, it was a lot of time. I was investing a lot. It wasn't a monetary risk because I had another job. I didn't need the money, and they weren't. My tithe was more than what they were paying me. Let me put it that way, by a significant margin.
Been there, done that. Now,
Herbie would point that out many weeks. He would count the offering in front of everybody and say, "Well, Brother Sam gave more than what we're paying him. Just want you guys to know that."
Well, when I took not Herbie's church, Merle's church, I did not know I was taking a revitalization. I knew that it was a church that was almost dead. I didn't take it because I was courageous. I didn't take it because I was necessarily called to that church or that type of church. I took it because no other church would take me. It's just simple as that. Okay. I've been to several churches. This is the first one after 6 trial sermons. They're ready to take me. Okay. So that's my call to my first church of ministry.
Our stories are similar there. They are similar. So fearful leaders who avoid risk. That's kind of the first one. 4 kinds of church leaders who will not lead in a revitalization. The second one is leaders in denial who ignore decline. So we see this a lot, Dad. And you can be a pastor or a church leader in denial, be a good person, be a good shepherd. And that one area of just putting the blinders on is really harming the congregation. And I've seen pastors even give up on counting. Like they just don't want to even see the numbers anymore because they kind of know it. And if they can hide it in their own mind, if it's not front and center, they can stay in their denial.
And those type of leaders who are ignoring decline are a form of risk aversion. You can blend some of these. These are not necessarily categorically neatly separated. So when they are ignoring decline, what they are saying is, I don't want to accept or embrace or even be knowledgeable about the risk that is present. And they create a greater risk, Sam. They create the risk of doing nothing, which is a big risk, maybe one of the biggest risks you can have.
And a lot of times this one's hard because you get rewarded for ignoring the decline.
Oh, I tell you what, you go sit at the hospital 5 hours with someone instead of going and sharing the gospel with 25 people in the same time frame, you're going to get rewarded.
Yeah. And that's difficult. And hear us out. Of course, shepherd your people. Of course, disciple them. Of course, care for them. Go to the hospital. But the issue is, are you neglecting part of the Great Commission by under the guise of like, I'm shepherding my people?
Mhm.
And a lot of pastors can be guilty of that. I know I have been guilty of it as well. Which leads into the third leader, and this is me, by the way. I'm at this stage in my ministry. Comfortable leaders who resist change. And I know that may shock some of you because I'm a change agent and that is part of my personality. But my church is in a really, really healthy place right now. And it's glorious how much support and encouragement I have. And I have no reason to lead change because it's all good right now, except for the fact that in order for us to progress, there is going to have to be change.
Yeah, it is at this point, and you know it, I'm stating the obvious. It is at this point that change is the greatest cry, the greatest need. It's because at this point, you can begin to do things before the bad takes place, before the negative takes place. You can come in and say, we're going to do this. Now, here's what I know West B fairly well. Not like it's pastor, but I know West B fairly well. I think you're in a position where you can do decent incremental change to move the church forward without destroying what has been done to this point. And one of the reasons that Sam Rayner is comfortable now is not because he's risk averse. It's not because he does not want to lead the church to the Great Commission. One of the reasons you're comfortable is because you had to fight so hard. And what I mean by fight is you had people leave. You had all kinds of issues that took place that were no fault of your own, but you were the leader during this.
They would have a different opinion on that. The people who left would say that they were my fault.
I get that. There is not only circumstantial evidence, but there's a lot of evidence otherwise, but I'm not going to even go into that. But you are at this point now where you're saying, I have got, not that I earned it or I deserve it. It's just that I am breathing easy and having a good time right now. So I say to people like Sam Rayner, embrace it, but start making some of the incremental changes.
I told the staff Tuesday, this week, at the time of this recording, I told them I don't want to grow old with my church. And what I mean by that is it would be very easy for me to take all of these young families that we have and all of the great momentum that we have and not change things. And all of us grow old together. And in 20 years, have what I inherited 10 years ago.
That's a great point.
And it would be very easy to do that. I would be rewarded for it. I would be loved for it. I could exit. So we had about 800 in attendance last week, right at 800, and 30% of our church is 18 and under. So I could lead the next 20 years and grow the church, quotation marks, grow the church from 800 to 600, and then have, a decent amount of kids and students and be loved for it. And in reality,
that decline would be so minuscule that it would hardly be seen over that period.
Nobody would ever notice, and I would leave a hero.
Right.
But I would know, and the Lord would know. So I say this, comfortable leaders who resist change. I'm a change agent. I love change. I'm always restless. I'm always thinking about what's next. But even somebody like me with a personality like I have, which is very disruptive, can get into this mindset because it's just the easy thing to do after a string of successes. And we've had them at West Bradenton to go, you know what? I can ride this wave and I can ride this wave for another 10 or 20 years and nobody's going to say anything. So this is something that I have to watch in myself. And it's something that I told the staff, I do not want to grow old with my church.
I totally get it. I see West B as one of the most healthy churches I'm ever around. But I know that it has gone through a lot of pain to get to that point. And that's why I know you're happy to be where you are and you want to stay happy. And
yeah,
you
and
want
I'm
your wife
busy.
to stay happy and your kids to stay happy.
Well, my kids are doing great. I mean, we're at the stage of life where they've got all, none of them are driving yet, but every one of them has to be somewhere. So, it's just, it would be very easy at this stage of life to just hit the cruise control button at my church. And that's not what I'm called to do. And that's not what I should do. So,
Totally get it.
you've got fearful leaders who avoid risk, leaders in denial, comfortable leaders. So, pot calling the kettle black on the third one. That's me. Last one, coasting leaders who have lost their drive. So it's a little different than comfortable. This is like the ambition is gone, the vision is gone, the drive is gone, and I'm just, because I'm in a good place or because my church will let me, I'm just going to coast. Dad, we see a lot of this in pastors. The average age of a pastor is 60. So we see a lot of pastors just like, I'm just going to coast until I've got enough for.
And they rationalize that they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's plenty of examples of pastors who are in their 60s and are still doing a lot of change and all sorts of great stuff. I don't mean to imply something generational there. I'm just saying the temptation is to coast, particularly if you've got 5, 6, 7 more years of ministry.
When someone in leadership begins to coast, they have a new purpose. That purpose may be get to retirement. That purpose may be outlast other people and don't get fired. That purpose is not the purpose to which they're called. That purpose is a new purpose. And when they pursue that new purpose, they forget what they're supposed to be doing as leaders. And so the complacent leader, the coasting leader, is someone in a very dangerous position, at least for the church. Now, that person may make it to retirement and walk away, but that church is severely wounded by not having a leader who has a clear purpose and vision for the church during that time. And Sam, I challenge myself all the time because I know that I'm not self-aware. I have a long way, even at my age, state of being self-aware. And I just question at my age, what am I supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And if I'm not, will somebody actually tell me that shouldn't be doing that? And there's so many questions I have. I see it happening with my peers, and I'm asking the question, am I thinking it's just my peers, or am I one of them as well? So I worry about that self-awareness.
You know where I see this some?
Where?
I can't say a lot, but where I see it some, these coasting leaders, is in denominational positions.
Yep.
And here's the thing about what we've been doing, Dad. We've formed many denominational partnerships in the last few months. It's been a huge growing part of our business. And, I think of Eddie at the Free Will Baptist and Scott with the Global Methodist Church, and the great group that we just signed up, the Western Ontario District of the Pentecostals Assemblies of Canada. Long name, great work.
The Cumberland Presbyterian.
Cumberland Presbyterian.
Global Methodists of North Carolina, the Texas Baptists. The list goes on and on.
Global Methodists of New England, the Northeast.
Yep,
they call it
just
Northeast.
into the picture as well.
So all of these leaders have come to us and have said, we don't want to coast.
Mm-hmm.
We have the ability to do that, but we don't want to. We want to keep pushing forward, and we've got a new program for them that has enabled us to help them not coast. So if that's of interest to you, you can email me, sam@churchanswers.com. If you're a denominational leader and you're like, I want in, I want on this program. It's $150 a year.
And not only that,
it's cheap.
Deep discounts for the churches you serve.
Yep.
You can provide a lot of resources to them. And we're watching people sign up. I'm thinking about the church, the denomination in Chicago, Evangelical Covenant Church, I believe is the name of the denomination. And there are others that we had not heard of these denominations till they contacted us. And in every case, the denominational leader says, I don't want to be that denominational leader that is going to just coast as the denomination declines. I want to make a difference.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them. All of these groups that we just named are definitely groups to watch. They may not be on your radar, but they should be. They're doing some incredible work, and it's really a blessing to be a part of that, help resource them. So, sam@churchanswers.com. If you're a denominational leader and you want to know more about that, just send me an email, and we'll get the conversation started. Doesn't lock you into anything. Just express interest, and we'll tell you more about it. So don't coast. If you're a pastor, don't coast. And if you're a denominational leader in some sort of denominational position, like, let's get to work. There's so much revitalization that needs to occur. No need to be fearful. No need to be in denial. No need to get comfortable. No need to coast.
And not being comfortable does not mean that you're not happy. It just means that you are moving forward for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the kingdom, for the glory of God.
Hey, there's another great outreach tool that I want to tell everyone about.
What's that?
And it's one of the most exciting things that has ever happened in the kingdom of God.
What is that?
Pickleball.
Do you know the history of pickleball, Sam?
No, I don't. And Upward's got pickleball. I'm being a bit facetious.
Okay.
That's not in the copy, by the way. They did not put that in the copy. I just said
well,
that.
okay, you started it. Guess what year pickleball started? Just guess.
Oh, I have no idea. I'll just wild guess. 1990.
1965.
Wow. Okay, so somebody was innovative.
It's been around a long time. There was a family that had a parcel of land on Bainbridge Island, which is just a ferry ride off of Seattle. And but they didn't have enough land for a tennis court. They had enough for a little badminton court. And so they started innovating a little bit to make the badminton court fit some aspect of tennis. But here's what happened. The ball would often go askew, and they got tired of chasing it. They had a dog that would retrieve it for them. Do you know what that dog's name was?
The dog's name was Pickle.
Pickle. They would say, "Go get the ball, Pickle. Pickle, ball. Pickle, ball." That is a true story of how pickleball got its name.
Okay. So here's what Upward's going to do. Now that you know the history of it, here's what Upward's going to do about it. They are offering 2 free pickleball net sets when you create your league.
Net
They've
sets?
only got net
sets?
sets.
Net sets.
Yes.
Net sets.
Two kits. Let me put it that way.
2
free. Yeah, 2 free ones per church. But there's only 200 available. And I know these will go fast. So go to upward.org/pickleball. And now you know why pickleball. It's because the dog was named Pickle.
Pickle. Oh, pickle.
Pickleball.
Oh.
Yeah. Upward.org/pickleball. It's one of the hottest crazes that's out there. I don't have to speak to what is pickleball and who's doing it.
What's just amazing is how it's just arrived on the scene after all these years.
Yeah.
It's obviously a boomer phenomenon. We're too old to do tennis. So, hey, somebody mentioned something about pickleball.
Well, listen, reaching boomers is important, Dad. And a lot of them are their peak earning income years. That's not a reason to go after people because of their money.
But it's okay.
But there is some truth to that. Like reaching boomers only helps your church. Now, many more people are going to be interested in pickleball. I've heard of a lot of women's ministries doing this, and just kind of capturing the fad and enjoying it. And I credit to Upward for putting this together. So go to upward.org/pickleball. Get one of these 2 free net sets.
Net sets.
Two. So and I will end the spot for Upward, and I will not include what I'm about to say now. So the Upward's not part of this. So you say net sets. You were making fun of me because of just the way that it sounds. Net sets. I was preaching the other day, and I was talking about all of the "but God" verses, and a couple of my deacons got a kick out of it, and so they said, "Sam, we counted in your sermon how many times you said "but God," and I was like, oh gosh, it's but coordinated conjunction. But God did this. But God.
I know what it is. I've never thought about the fact that if you repeat it redundantly, it sounds.
I had a whole section of my sermon on "but God."
But God.
So anyway. Net sets. Go get your pickleball net set at upward.org/pickleball.
My guess is Pickle is dead now, so do it in memory of him.
If it was 1965, yes. And all of you, we'll see you on the next episode.